Guys, welcome to Call to Mind. Today we are going to discuss about botulism. बहुत ही important topic है ये. ये आपके gate point of view से भी important है. So we are going to discuss about bacterium Clostridium botulinum. Botulism is a rare but one of the important aspect of it is a potentially fatal illness, and there is a toxin involved which is produced by this bacterium. So सबसे पहले इनके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स क्या हैं. ग्राम पॉजिटिव रॉड्स हैं, स्ट्रिक्टली एनारोब्स हैं, और ऑल्दो ऐसे देखा गया है दे टॉलरेट ट्रेसेस ऑफ ऑक्सीजन, and that is due to the presence of enzyme which is enzyme superoxide dismutase. So they are pretty much known to be strictly anaerobic to aerotolerant spore forming bacilli, and they are found in soil as well as in normal intestinal flora of man and animals. आप जब मटेरियल पढ़ेंगे आपको एक्सेप्शंस पढ़ने को मिलेगा, लाइक in many of the material you will learn about Clostridia. They can be both gram positive and gram negative, although the majority of isolates are gram positive. But here we are looking at botulism, which is where we are going to pay stress on is a Clostridium botulinum. So it's a gram positive, rod shaped, anaerobic, spore forming motile bacterium, and it has an ability to produce a neurotoxin which is botulinum. So it's look like mostly जो अगर this bacterium की हम बात करें, so they owe their virulence almost entirely due to their toxigenicity. If you look at the class Clostridia, they are ubiquitous saprophytes. Many isolated from clinical specimens are accidental contaminants. That means they were not involved in disease process. Now, because these organisms are normally found on the skin, even a pure culture of Clostridia isolated from blood may have no clinical significance. Now these Clostridia, they form characteristic spores, so position of which is actually useful in species identification. Go through the material, we will learn that improper heating of the canned food is a major factor in botulism food poisoning. To keep it simple, Clostridium botulism is a heterogeneous and ubiquitous group of bacteria, usually divided into 4 groups. Okay, group 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that is based on physiologic characteristic. And it can be easily isolated from soil, marine, sediment, seafood, fruits, vegetables, and it is known to form heat-resistant spores that germinate in anaerobic, substrate-rich conditions to grow into toxin-producing bacilli. को एग्ज़ाम के लिए एक चीज़ याद रखनी है जो आपसे गेट में भी पूछा जा सकता है. न्यूरोटॉक्सिन प्रोडक्शन is one of the most important feature of the species Clostridium botulinum. Discuss a little bit about the pathogenesis. There are 3 forms: adult botulism, infant botulism, and wound botulism, right? So when you talk about the adult botulism, mainly it is caused by the ingestion of preformed toxin in food. And if you look at the infant botulism, in which organism replicates and secrete toxin in the intestinal tract, and the wound botulism, in which the organism replicates in the wound and secrete toxin. So if you just look at these 3 forms, the main thing we are talking about is a toxin, where the virulence is. So mode of action kya hai? The toxin binds to the neuromuscular junction of parasympathetic nerves and interfere with acetylcholine release, and it is causing the flaccid muscle paralysis. ये बहुत important point है, flaccid muscle paralysis. इस पे आपको पूछा जा सकता है question. No host defenses are known, and attack of botulism does not produce effective immunity. So small amount of toxin in the circulation and its affinity for neural tissue probably prevent adequate amount of toxin from interacting with the immune system. Important point ये है कि no host defenses are known. एक सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट बात जो उठ के आ रही है कि वाई इट इज़ सो कंसर्निंग टू अस. एकदम न्यूरोटॉक्सिन की बात कर रहे हैं, बट अदर what could be one, there is one more important reason, that is the ability of Clostridium botulinum to naturally transfer neurotoxin genes to other Clostridia. And this is actually concerning, especially in the food industry. Why it is so concerning in the food industry? Because their preservation systems are designed to destroy or inhibit only Clostridium botulism, but not other Clostridium species. So वो और भी important हो जाता है वहाँ पे. There is a very good paper in 2018, an important research article in Nature, in scientific reports. They're talking about botulism neurotoxin encoding plasmids can be conjugatively transferred to diverse Clostridium strains. So most group 1 Clostridium botulinum strains, they harbor botulinum neurotoxin genes on their chromosome, while some of them carry these genes on large plasmids. You read the research article, you will, and read, go through the data. They indicate that, what in their experiments, and the data is showing, the data indicating that conjugation within the genus Clostridium can occur across physiological groups of Clostridium botulinum. So that support actually the horizontal gene transfer. If there is a transfer of these plasmid possessing these genes to the resistant Clostridium species, such as, Clostridium sporogenes, that could impact biological safety for animals and humans. So it's a really good paper. You must go through this, and it's very important information, and you will learn a lot about this strain. So let's go back to, we were talking about the, different forms, and let's start discussing the food poisoning. So originally botulism food poisoning was thought to be associated only with, meat, um, especially sausage. So home canning using inadequate sterilization technique was mainly, responsible for the most cases of botulism. You have to remember that the spores are heat resistant and they can survive, but the toxin is relatively heat labile. So, however, even acid foods such as the canned tomatoes, they have been responsible for several recent cases of botulism food poisoning, because the toxin is usually produced at a pH 4.8 to 8.5. So, certain conditions have been shown to cause toxin production in acid foods. Inadequate processing can permit the growth of mold, yeast, or bacteria, which in turn raises the pH of the food sufficiently to permit the growth of Clostridium botulism if present. So, in general, if you look at it, the germination of botulism spore is favored in food kept at warm temperatures, under anaerobic conditions, and for a long period of time. We discuss about a little bit about the infant botulism. It is a lack of the robust immune system, which allows the proliferation of toxin elaborating Clostridium botulinum colonies in the digestive tract or bronchioles, following ingestion or inhalation of spores. Look at the wound botulism is mainly the result of the Clostridium botulinum spore germination in the devitalized tissue. And it is most commonly as a result of subcutaneous injection of spore contaminated illicit drugs, and that's how it is get released into the local circulation. Kind of discuss, all the different forms, and if you look at it, the ingestion of the preformed toxin, which is improperly in the stored food, that basically resulting in a food-borne botulism, and which is then absorbed in the intestinal tract, which is similarly to infant botulism. To dig deeper and read a lot of material, and you will learn that there are 8 distinct serotypes when you're talking about the botulinum neurotoxin. The most important thing is, despite the serotype specific differences in target sites, all serotypes share the downstream syndrome of flaccid paralysis. So it's really important to look at the prevention part, and it's not that difficult too, because it is lies in the proper food handling techniques, and in particular, the home canned and the home preserved food. There should be a minimum temperature, pressure, and cooking, as per the recommendations. So, it kills the Clostridium spores, and effectively, there is no toxin produced. Or if you read the literature, boiling home canned food for 10 minutes will inactivate preformed toxin and kill bacteria, but will not destroy spores. Infant botulism is best preventing by avoiding honey for infants less than 12 months of age. इन्फेंट botulism के बारे में हम बात करते हैं. There is a term which is used as a floppy baby, which is exhibiting the global hypnotonia, and it implies like there is a immediate need for intubation and mechanical ventilation. बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट पेपर है, और उन्होंने बहुत अच्छे से डिस्क्राइब किया है रिगार्डिंग द केस, स्पेशली infantile botulism का, which is in an infant presenting with acute floppiness and a history of constipation. And in this case, they've been inquiring about the practice of feeding honey, especially when we are talking about the Asian communities. So what they are trying to give message in this research article, they are trying to pay stress that giving honey routinely to infants is not safe, and the healthcare need to concentrate on health education. Specifically, they're talking about the communities where there are such customs of feeding honey to the infants. So they are trying to, discuss this case in this research article, where they are talking about, considering the botulism toxicity uh, uh, when the infant is fed with honey. So it is, and I'm going to add the link. If you read the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they have also added info for home canners, that home canning is a great way to preserve garden produce, but it can be risky or even deadly if not done correctly. What more material they discuss about is the surveillance and the bioterrorism, looking at this as one of the deadliest toxin known. You go through the treatment, doctors treat botulism with a drug called an antitoxin, and the toxin attacks the body nerves, and the antitoxin prevents it from causing any more harm. However, it doesn't heal the damage the toxin has already done. So, depending upon how severe your symptoms are, you may need to stay in the hospital for weeks or even months before you are well enough to go home. News is, many cases of botulism are preventable. So as we know that many cases of botulism are now preventable, तो जब भी food-borne botulism की बात हो रही है, home canning पे question आ सकता है, because we know that the food might have become contaminated if they are not canned correctly, because food with low acid content are the most common sources of home canning related botulism cases. तो ये तो फूड बॉर्न बॉटुलिज्म के बारे में है, जहाँ पे हम क्या कहते हैं, वूंड बॉटुलिज्म के बारे में बात करते हैं. देयर द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट इज द प्रिवेंशन कम्स इन इज by keeping the wounds clean. So if wounds appear infected, then it might be infected. In that case, you have to visit, seek medical care immediately. And wound botulism may happen after traumatic injuries, so there you need to visit and take medical care immediately. So regarding the infant botulism, again there is always the cases with the honey. We know that honey can contain the bacteria, that causes infant botulism. So do not feed honey to children younger than 12 months. Honey is safe for people 1 year of age and older. So there was a health alert in Texas. So several babies in Texas have become ill with the infant botulism after using honey pacifiers. So these are the common, botulism cases. Also, in the case of iatrogenic botulism, if you have to get injections of botulism for a medical condition, then your doctor will choose the safest dose. So if you get an injection of botulism toxin for cosmetic reasons, be sure to go to a licensed professional. So question mostly गेट में जब भी botulism का आता है, one of their favorite केसेस जो हमें लगता है कि सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट, एक होम कैनिंग को लेके और एक इन्फेंट बॉटुलिज्म को. ये पेपर्स के आई एम एडिंग द लिंक फॉर द रिसर्च आर्टिकल्स. आई थिंक आप उसे पढ़ेंगे तो यू विल लर्न अ लॉट. Also, at the same time, I'm going to attach a link for CDC where there's a lot more information. आप उसे पढ़ सकते हैं, and I think इसको पढ़ने से you will perform better.